Hello everyone, I'm your host Joy and welcome back to episode 2 of Glitches and Goosebumps. Today we have a crazy episode entitled Monster Machines. Get ready. Alright, monster machines. Let's jump right into it. So in the not so distant past, I'm talking maybe 30 years ago, there have been several instances of radiation therapy machines malfunctioning and delivering lethal doses to its patients. For some context, radiation is toxic to living cells. So doctors administer it to cancerous regions on the body to kill those cancer cells. However, in this story you're about to hear, they led to some unintended consequences. All right, so let's get into the story. Back in 1985, 3 people died and 3 were critically injured due to a bug in Canada's Therac 25 machine. Now this is a radiation therapy machine, as I alluded to earlier. So how could we let this happen? This is something that is important to be safe. You're expecting to go in it and come out feeling better, not worse. So in order to understand the story, I want to give you some context about the machine. First thing to know about the Therac 25 was that it had a dual power mode. It had a low energy electron mode, which allowed you to target shallow tissues like those that might be affected in skin cancer. And it had a high energy X-ray photon mode that can be used to target those deeper tissues like those that might be affected in lung cancer. This was revolutionary. Hospitals no longer had to worry about managing 2 machines, and they can get all the things that they needed with one device. So this was great. Secondly, the Therac 25 introduced software-based safety controls as opposed to physical hardware implementations. So in theory, this was going to reduce maintenance costs, reduce complexity, and just make life easier because you didn't have to worry about having hardware to deal with monitoring the radiation intensity and locking the magnets in place, etc., etc. It would all be controlled via software. So everybody was excited about this piece of equipment and it was definitely revolutionary. So how did this happen? It seemed like we're in an environment where the machine was well received, people are trained, things are gonna go well. However, that unfortunately was not the case. After a few short weeks, the radiology technician began to feel super comfortable with the machine because she had been working with it day in and day out. And that muscle memory was starting to kick in as she would go through all the prompts on the screen. We've all been there on autopilot when you're driving to work, you're at the gym, you're at work doing something that you always do. It happens. Unfortunately, as she was entering the prompts for one patient, she typed an X as opposed to an E. Now the X stood for X-ray, and as you remember, those beams were higher dosage of radiation because they target deeper tissues like the lungs. So as you can imagine, this was definitely not what she should have done. The machine did pause and it displayed an error message that said malfunction 54, but the machine was kind of buggy anyway. It kind of paused from time to time, so the technician continued with business as usual. Unfortunately, the patient immediately knew something was wrong. They heard a loud buzzing sound, which later was found to indicate that the machine was giving out maximum radiation dosages, and their skin felt as if someone poured hot coffee on them while they were in a bath. Terrible. A few days later, the patient suffered paralysis due to radiation overexposure and later died due to further complications. However, the manufacturers of the Therac 25 determined that this was just an electrical issue and they put the machine back in service, despite the fact that an electric company had already verified that, we don't know what you're talking about, sir. It's not an electric issue. So unfortunately, there were more casualties. 2 more people died, 3 were critically injured, and it just was not a really, really good thing. So what happened? What caused this machine that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to malfunction and actually take the lives of multiple people? Well, it turns out the bug was caused by a race condition. Now in software, a race condition is when the behavior of one system depends on the timing, sequence, etc. of another system. So think of it like a relay race where you're handing off the baton. I'm a system and you're a system and you're trying to get the baton to me. But if you fall and say break your leg in the middle of the race, I'm never going to get that baton and be able to finish my job. It's kind of what a race condition is. So here there were two systems at play inside of the Therac 25, and apparently something went wrong in one part of the system and it caused the user to think that she was doing the electron beams as opposed to the X-ray beams. So what can be learned from this terrible story? Unfortunately, for the people out there that are going through medical treatment, I'm just gonna say, try not to be anxious, ask questions. Questions are always good. And like the case that we talked about, if you feel like something's wrong, definitely speak up sooner than later. For my techies, I've got a ton of lessons for y'all. So in the aftermath, the FDA released an internal memo stating that, 1, there are no formal software specifications in place for the Therac 25. Problematic. Number 2, there was no test plan in place for this machine. Don't get me started on testing. That's bad. And there was no independent testing done on the product, meaning that usually, like with safety critical machines like cars and airplanes, they bring in people from an external organization to come in and test it. There was none of that. Along with all those things, which I won't even elaborate on, the usability of the Therac 25 sucked. The cryptic error messages like malfunction 54, what does that mean? We need to make it easier for our users to fail and understand why they're failing and move on. That's a problem. And also there should have been multiple prompts along the way to say, are you sure you want to do this? Are you positive? Because this is important. So I won't go on my rant, but this whole situation is a problem. And we learn about all of these kind of things in our computer science curriculums. Shout out to CFC, because I heard this story back in the day before I even got in the industry. So most of us as software developers won't work on safety critical systems. Like we might be building websites and apps to improve a customer's life, but it won't, you know, be a life-changing experience. Even though that's the case, we need to make sure that we're building systems that help our users get what they need to get done in the most efficient way, and the right way, okay? All right, so I hope you all enjoyed day 2 of Glitches and Goosebumps. Tell a friend, and we'll be back tomorrow with day 3. And I got 11 more to go. All right, I'm Joy. Stay tuned. I'm out. Peace. Hey. Let go, let go, let go, let go, let go.